Stop overthinking.
In a city that never truly slept there, lived a man named Daniel. Daniel was 32 years old. He had a stable job, a clean apartment, a small circle of friends. From the outside, his life looked organized. But inside his mind, nothing was organized. His thoughts never stopped. When he woke up in the morning, before his feet even touched the floor, his mind had already started running. Deadlines, mistakes from yesterday, conversations he replayed again and again, imaginary arguments that had never happened, fear about the future. He brushed his teeth while thinking. He ate while thinking. He walked while thinking. He tried to sleep while thinking. His mind was like a radio that no one knew how to turn off. The strange part was this: nothing was terribly wrong in his life, yet he felt exhausted. Not physically, mentally, emotionally. There was a constant pressure in his chest, a tightness in his forehead, a quiet sadness he could not explain. One night, after hours of turning in bed, Daniel sat up and whispered into the dark, "I just want silence." The next morning, instead of going to work immediately, he took a train out of the city. He did not know exactly where he was going. He only knew he needed space. After 2 hours, he arrived in a small lakeside town surrounded by hills. The air felt different there, slower, lighter. He walked along the lake path until he saw a small wooden workshop near the water. Outside the workshop sat an elderly carpenter. His hands were rough, his movements were slow, but his face carried a deep calm. Daniel stood there for a moment. Then he walked closer. "Sir Daniel," said quietly, "may I ask you something?" The old carpenter looked up and smiled. "You may ask," he replied. "My mind is always full of thoughts, full of noise. I cannot rest. I try distraction, I try entertainment, I try sleep, but the noise is still there. How do I find peace?" The carpenter did not answer immediately. Instead, he stood up and walked inside the workshop. Daniel followed. The room smelled of wood and oil. Sunlight entered through a small window. On the table lay several unfinished wooden bowls. The carpenter handed Daniel a block of wood and a small carving knife. "Sit," he said. "Carve." Daniel frowned slightly. "Carve what, a bowl?" the carpenter replied. "I don't know how. You will learn." Daniel sat down. He held the wood. He held the knife. His hands were unsure. The carpenter spoke softly. "Carve slowly. Pay attention to the knife. Feel the wood. Notice every movement." Daniel began. At first, his mind was still loud. "This is pointless. I should be at work. This is a waste of time." But as the knife touched the wood, something shifted. He had to focus. If he pressed too hard, the wood would crack. If he moved too fast, the shape would be uneven. So he slowed down. He noticed the sound of the blade cutting into wood. He noticed the texture beneath his fingers. He noticed his breathing. Minute by minute, the noise inside him became softer. Not because the thoughts disappeared, but because his attention moved from imagination to the present moment. After an hour, Daniel realized something surprising. He had not thought about his deadlines. He had not replayed yesterday's mistake. He had not worried about tomorrow. He had simply carved. When the bowl began to take shape, the carpenter asked quietly, "Where is your noise now?" Daniel blinked. "It's quieter." The carpenter nodded. "Peace is not created," he said. "It is uncovered." Daniel looked confused. The carpenter continued, "Your mind produces thoughts the way the lake produces waves. That is natural. You cannot stop the waves." He pointed outside the window, "But when the wind stops, the lake becomes still." "What is the wind?" Daniel asked. "Uncontrolled attention," the carpenter replied. "When your attention is dragged by every thought, every memory, every fear, the wind becomes strong, the lake becomes restless." Daniel sat silently. And when attention returns to this moment, he asked, "The wind weakens, the lake settles." The carpenter picked up a finished bowl from the shelf. This bowl was once a rough piece of wood. It did not become smooth by fighting itself. It became smooth by steady, patient focus. He looked at Daniel carefully. "You are not tired because of your life. You are tired because you are living everywhere except here." The words entered Daniel slowly. Living everywhere except here. Past, future, imaginary conversations, imaginary disasters, never now. The carpenter stood and walked toward the lake. Daniel followed again. They stood at the water's edge. The surface of the lake reflected the sky like a mirror. "Throw a stone," the carpenter said. Daniel picked up a small stone and threw it into the water. Ripples spread in circles. "That is a thought," the carpenter said. "It comes. It creates movement. Then it fades." They watched the ripples disappear. "Now imagine," the carpenter continued, "that every time a ripple appears, you jump into the lake trying to stop it." Daniel smiled faintly. "You would create more waves." "Yes," the carpenter said gently. "That is what you do with your thoughts. You jump into each one. You fight it. You analyze it. You argue with it. And you create more noise." Daniel felt something inside him break open. He had been fighting his mind for years, trying to control it, trying to silence it, trying to win against it. "And what should I do instead?" he asked quietly. The carpenter looked at the lake. "Watch, just watch, just watch. When a thought appears, notice it. Do not chase it. Do not fight it. Let it rise. Let it fall. Return your attention to what is real. Your breath, your steps, the sound of the wind." Daniel stood there for a long time, listening, breathing. For the first time in months, he felt something unfamiliar. Space. That evening he stayed by the lake until sunset. He noticed the color of the sky changing. He noticed the cool air touching his skin. He noticed the sound of birds returning to their nests. The world had always been this way. He had just never been present enough to see it. Before leaving, Daniel turned to the carpenter. "Is this the secret to peace?" he asked. The old man smiled. "This is the practice of peace. Peace is not a place you reach. It is a way you pay attention." Daniel returned to the city the next day. The traffic was still loud. The deadlines were still there. The responsibilities had not disappeared, but something inside him had shifted. When his mind began to race, he did not panic. He noticed it. When fear appeared, he did not argue with it. He watched it. When regret surfaced, he did not dive into it. He let it pass. And again he brought his attention back to the sound of typing, to the feeling of walking, to the rhythm of breathing. The storm did not disappear overnight, but it weakened, because he stopped feeding it with attention. Weeks passed. His sleep improved. His face softened. People asked, "Did something change in your life?" He smiled. "Yes," he said quietly. "I stopped trying to control every thought. Here is the truth. Your mind will think. That is its nature. But suffering begins when you believe every thought, chase every thought, fight every thought. Peace begins when you observe. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. And awareness is already calm. Right now, as you are listening to this story, notice something simple. Your breath. Feel it. Just one breath, in and out. For this moment, there is no past. For this moment, there is no future. There is only now, and in now there is space, and in space there is peace. If this message resonates with you, pause the noise for a few seconds today. Put your phone down. Take 3 slow breaths. Watch your thoughts without judging them. That is where your freedom begins. If this story helped you, please like this video and share it with someone who feels mentally tired. And subscribe for more slow, powerful stories that guide you back to yourself. Until the next story, do not fight the lake. Do not chase the waves. Be the still water beneath them. Stay aware. Stay present. Stay peaceful.